And welcome back to the Getting to Know Greenville podcast. I'm Katherine, and this is Steven, and today we are so excited to be joined with by Alexis. I don't know if I even got your last name.
It's okay. It's Krcelic.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard to pronounce. Don't worry about it.
It's beautiful. Okay, Alexis Krcelic, who owns Basta Bakery in the West Village of Greenville. So Alexis, welcome. We are so excited to be talking to you, especially because we are huge fans of baked goods.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So I wanted to kind of start out by asking you, just baseline, have you always lived in Greenville? If not, can you just tell us a little bit about your story? How did you come to open this business of your own? That's so crazy.
Yes. So I am from Greenville, technically from Powdersville, if anyone's familiar with Powdersville. And I've grown up here my whole life. I went to college at USC. I studied abroad in Costa Rica and Italy, which were really important in my journey of food, which led me to opening Basta. But baking is always something that I've loved. I was that kid that had 17 different hobbies. My parents tried me in dance and gymnastics and sewing and all of the things.
Sewing.
Okay. I took sewing summer camps.
Yeah.
Sewing summer camps.
That sounds
and I made
riveting.
aprons.
That's awesome.
So the only thing that stuck was the cooking classes that I would be in, and I would win competitions there and stuff. And so we did cooking and baking, but actually over there I have my Easy Bake Oven.
Oh my god!
So
that's
the original,
yes, Alexis's Easy Bake Oven over there. So I was doing all of that, and my parents realized that I really liked it, but everything I made was trash. So they were like, "We need
when
to
you're
get her."
7.
I'm 7, exactly. But that's why they were like, we need to get her a recipe book and into some classes so that we don't have to fake, keep eating this flour water mixture. And then I do cooking classes and my I loved watching Rachel Ray's 30-minute meals.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Big fan.
You're speaking my language.
That
there.
would calm me down
as
an 11-year-old.
Her and Ina Garten for me. Oh my gosh.
100%. And there was something so beautiful about the whole process of it and the methodical nature of making stuff, especially with baking. And it just really helped me to center myself, to focus, to relax, because I'm not a really relaxed person. And then I would just have fake cooking classes in my kitchen. Sometimes I'd set up a video camera.
I was gonna say, do you have video of that? That's awesome.
Honestly, I probably do, but I don't know that I want to watch it. And I just loved food. I loved eating it. I loved seeing other people enjoy it. And so, long story short, it was always something that I wanted. And, life happens and takes you down different paths. And when you're in college and you're in business school and everyone around you is going to, Deloitte and, wherever, IBM and all of this stuff. And owning a bakery doesn't seem like a legitimate career option, because everyone
but it makes you more happy than IBM. I'm just saying.
Correct. That it does. And so then I just changed paths. I worked in nonprofits. My dad is a president of a nonprofit in Greenville, and so I ended up working there. But then in 2020, when everyone was wondering what the heck was going on, exactly when we were in a Panda Express, that I'm questioning, what's my life like? I love my job working at the nonprofit, but this isn't what I want to do. This isn't my fulfillment. And not that I think there's always just one thing, but right now I knew this wasn't the long game. And then January, the wildfires happened in Australia, and I just felt really called to give money away, but I was working in that nonprofit life, so I didn't have that much money to give away. And so I wanted to raise money, and I was like, what could I do to sell or whatever, right? Just instead of just asking people to Venmo me and we'll all collectively send that, what's a different way? And so I baked banana bread, and I sold 50 loaves in 2 days. And it was crazy. And I was baking 2 loaves at a time in my kitchen, trying to keep up with these orders. But we raised over $600. I gave all of it away except for, what I spent on ingredients, which was amazing. And then when George Floyd was murdered in the summer, again, baking helps me process things and is free therapy and all of that. And so I baked again. We raised money.
I love that.
And I remember I took I took 2 loaves to somebody that bought them. And she looked at me, and she owned a food business in Greenville. And she said, you just started a business, right? And I was like,
Oh.
please, I've got so much going on. I've got so many things. I've got a dog. I've got this, whatever. I've got my full-time job. I was like, no, I didn't. And then I remember calling my friend who had known me since the first day of college. And I said, hey, Brian, you've known me. Like, does this sound crazy? Combining like nonprofit and baking? And he was like, this is everything that I've known you to like be. And I was like, let's get Basta up and running in 2 months then.
I'm amazed. Well, that was one thing that I guess I'm kind of skipping ahead of myself, because I kind of had a couple questions that I want to ask before I get to this, but I would like to go ahead and skip to it. One of the things that I think is so amazing about Basta already, like in my very honestly short time of being aware of Basta, even because, up until recently you didn't have a physical location. But I've followed you on social media, and I've been really keeping up with what you're doing. And one of the things that I love so much is the fact that you are being such an activist in the community. And one of the things that I saw that you're even doing tonight is the doing good, or like
doing something
group where like can you explain you're like picking topics, and then people from the community can come together and talk about how they can affect them, right?
Yeah. So what I saw, especially within like the younger demographic, was the awareness of the issues of the world, but a deep sadness because we didn't know what to do, right? And it just felt like burdensome, especially, and I love, getting outside of yourself and seeing larger problems, whether that's internationally or whether that's locally here in Greenville, but it can just feel really heavy. And then you're like, I'm one person. What can I do about this? So I wanted to make something called the Doing Something Group. It's a really like silly name, but it gets to the point of like what we are there for, is to talk about how to actually do something about these issues. And again, whether locally or on a bigger scale. So tonight is a topic about gentrification. And we have someone, Pat, from the community who's worked in that area a lot. And she's going to be discussing and leading us through what is that, how do we do something about it legally, and then on like smaller scales. But it's also a time for discussion in general from everybody to not just talk about the issues or decide, yes, we think it's good, no, we think it's bad, whatever, but it's just how can we actually do something about these topics. And then not everyone's going to do all of those steps, right? But maybe you take the one and you run with that, and someone takes this one and they run with that, and you actually feel like you're making a difference with the issue, especially knowing that we're all attempting to do something together.
Well, it's kind of like a mastermind group of here's the collective group thought, but then what can I go away with and do myself?
Exactly. And that's what I had mentioned earlier. Like, it's going to sound strange to say because we're a bakery and all of that. And people know us for our dessert, and that's amazing. But Basta like isn't about the dessert like at all. And I remember one time I was doing a practice interview, and they were like, I loved it, but you didn't even mention your dessert. And I was like, oh no. But because like dessert is just a vehicle for all of these other things. It's a way to give money away, which we do every month. It's a way to bring people together and think through hard topics. It's a way to talk about mental health. It's a way for people to feel safe. It's a way for people to do life together and join in community and make new friends. Which is why I can't wait until we have an even bigger space to where we could fit more people in here. Because food is just so easy and central to our lives that, and especially dessert, everyone loves it. You're happy eating it. If you're sad, you're eating dessert to get happy. Like, right? Like, you're just like experiencing joy with that. And so I wanted it. All of the good that's happened with Basta has been because people love the dessert, but they also really love what we do, and they're really excited about a place that cares and a place where they feel like they're heard and a part of just as much. Because I'm the sole owner of it, but Basta was not for me. It's for everyone else, and I wanted it to feel like a whole community project, and for me it's definitely felt that way.
And when you do stuff for others, you in turn get what you want after they get what they want.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with like all of that, because I think sometimes people forget that like small business owners particularly, it's not just about like, oh, doing something, making money. It comes from like a soul love for what you do.
Absolutely.
Especially because, like, you know, you look at chain restaurants all the time and, like, yeah, they're easy, they're great, whatever. But, like, the reason why I think it's so important to focus on small businesses is because it really is, like, from a deep love within that person.
Yep.
For their community and for their craft.
Yep.
But all that is to say, kind of to segue back just a little bit, I did want to ask sort of, like, about, we always ask, like, if you've always lived in Greenville, was there ever a time where you considered opening a business in another city, or was it always here? And if so, why Greenville?
So I actually, after college, I moved, like a month after graduation, I moved to Vietnam.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was thinking Seattle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I was just like, gotta go. And so I lived there for 10 months. I thought I was going to live there a little longer. And then I came back and I just did not know what I was doing. I taught English over there and I did some wellness coaching with my own business. And I had a great time. There's ups and downs of living in such a foreign place from anything that I had experienced. Because again, I'm in college, I majored in Latin American studies. I was very comfortable and familiar with that. So Vietnam was just entirely different. But I came back and because all my family is here, my parents, my sister. And then I just kind of stayed because I didn't know where else to go. And my plan was always to move out. And also during the pandemic, my sister and I were going to leave and go somewhere together. We lived together and we have our 2 dogs and everything. So we were going to move somewhere. And then the pandemic just put everything into question. And we had no idea when we'd be able to move and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And then I started Basta. And as soon as I started Basta, I knew I couldn't leave yet. Our flagship location will be here, but the plan is to have multiple locations across the country. And I only want 1 in each city. I don't think it makes sense to have 3 Bastas in Greenville. I want them in all over the world because, well, the country, but I didn't mean the world.
It would be pretty easy though to even just go to like a place like Asheville. And it's not so far yet so close, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. And because more places need what we do, like pouring into Greenville is important for me.
Yes.
But then once Greenville has it, other places need the same thing that we've given.
Yeah, I love that. I was gonna kind of sorry.
For the record, how old are you?
27.
Yeah, so she's killing it. Just in case anyone was curious.
You've done a little bit.
Yeah. I think I'm the, and feel free to somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm the youngest female food business owner in Greenville.
I think you. I can't think.
We're
of
gonna
feel
fact
like
check
right.
that.
But fact check
we'll
it because I don't know.
We're gonna get our best guys on that.
That's awesome.
That's insane. So, okay, going on to that. So you're 27. You have this business in the short time that y'all have been open. Because as of recording this podcast, you've only been open for about a month, physically speaking. I was gonna ask. You know, I'm going to look at my phone really quick because I have the question written down. But I wrote down that in a short time that y'all have had a physical location, I've had so many friends, like not just the 2 that I've mentioned to you, but like other people tell me about your bakery. And despite it being all vegan, which like I think that's, I want to touch on that. I think a lot of people have a misconception about vegan food being not as good as non-vegan food. Yeah. And everybody that's talked to me about Basta has been like, it's actually better than non-vegan desserts.
I want to do a blind taste test of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yes, I think that'd be
Involve
a fun...
eating in some
I'd
way.
love
Yeah.
it.
Would
Yes.
be good.
But I was going to say, like, how did you come up with the concepts for your desserts? And did they come from, like, family recipes? Or did you pioneer all these yourself after trial and error? Like, how did you basically achieve what I think some people think is unachievable?
Yeah, well, thank you. And I wish they came from family recipes. That seems easier sometimes. Like, dang, parents or grandparents, you guys didn't have anything you wanted to pass down? I mean, they passed down the love for food and the love for cooking and all of that. But my family is like Polish and Czech and Croatian, so not a lot of veganness happening there. And I even hate like emphasizing the vegan component, not because I'm not proud to be vegan or that this is vegan, but because I don't want it to deter people. Yeah. Because I make dessert for everybody. It just happens to be vegan because I am. Yeah. Like, and again, I'm vegan because of the morals of it, as well as for the environment and everything like that was why I decided to become vegan myself. but I don't like pushing it on anybody. I'm not pushing the agenda. And I just think that dessert's such a great entryway for people. And if they're like, oh, if this is good enough, let me try something else. And I'm like, cool.
Right.
And if you never do, cool.
I feel like the majority of people would have no idea, though, if you never marketed it that way.
So that's like my hope, right? Is that, we have probably 50% of our customers are vegan. Then we've got another large percentage that has a lot of allergies. So they love coming to us because we're very allergy friendly, soy free. We have most things are nut free.
Don't you also have gluten-free
options? I mean,
which for my friends who have celiac, that's like revolutionary.
Huge. And we have like multiple options, not just like one brownie you can choose from, or whatever. And I'm gluten-free myself, so I understand the struggle. And then, a lot of people just really like to eat. And I'm like, welcome. Like, I just made dessert that I hope is just good for everybody. And as far as my recipes, I wish that I could be an artist in the sense of drawing or painting or sculpting or even being able to sing or dance or anything like that. I can write a little bit. But then my other art form is dessert, and mainly the flavors of dessert. And I want to create stuff that people haven't thought of before. It's kind of why I don't do cupcakes. So I don't make cupcakes because I think cupcakes are boring and they're overdone, right? Like, you can get them at any bakery that you go to. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm not saying I haven't had good cupcakes. But I wanted to do things differently. That was kind of my whole philosophy behind Basta. And so we do cake sliders.
I was going to say, if you don't do cupcakes, what in the world do you do?
Well, we do cake sliders in place of cupcakes. So it's a normal cupcake, but then you cut it in half and you put the icing in the middle.
Oh my God. Well, that's how I eat cupcakes anyway.
I know.
Calm down.
I know, but I get so excited about this because, like, I think a lot of people do the normal way, but like it's easier and less messy if you break the bottom of the cupcake off and then put it on the top and eat it like a cup, like a sandwich.
Yeah. And what was actually funny is that
That explains a lot about you.
What's that supposed to mean? that's a pretty messed up thing to say to me.
Hey, cupcake sandwich. You blew my mind a little bit.
But it's good, right?
It's so much better, and especially if you have kids, because otherwise they get the icing all in their face. It's a mess. So like giving them a sandwich to eat, way easier. And so I loved Rachel Ray, and so when she had she still does, but her talk show, you could submit little video like tips. She had like a section for that, mainly I think for kids or like younger people and stuff. Well, I had a video on there. Oh. And I didn't realize this until already after I created the cake slider. And it was, my video was talking about packaging a cupcake in your lunchbox. And it was giving the suggestion of cutting it in half and turning it over so that your icing doesn't like stick to the top and all of that. And then I realized later that I had,
you invented something.
Yeah, I was like, I made that
You and
happen.
Rachel Ray collaborated.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredible.
So,
I love that.
That's
that's so cool. And then I was gonna also ask, like, talking about. So I mean, that was part of the reason why I didn't necessarily also emphasize the vegan part up front, because I think that, like you said, people sometimes have a misconception about veganism.
Yeah.
And I've had so many vegan things that are like delicious and wonderful.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. So, but with that being said, we kind of previously talked about off camera, Greenville doesn't have a whole lot of vegan options in the kind of foodie city that we are. And being a bakery, I was going to ask you, what is it like being the owner of a bakery or just a food centric business, I suppose, in what has been touted in like magazine after magazine as like one of the world's premier foodie cities right now? Like, what does that feel like? Is there any pressure to that? Is it just all joyful because you feel like it's being celebrated all the time? Like, how does that feel and work as a business owner for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there are kind of the small business food owners in Greenville, whether they have stores or they don't. And then there are the big players, right? Mm-hmm. And we're all familiar with the big players. And I don't know if all of those chefs or pastry chefs or anything, if they all have formal training or if it's informal. I do not have any formal training. So when I get around them, I feel very self-conscious. No one's made me feel that way or anything, but I'm just like, oh, dang, they went to this school and this, and they've studied under these people and worked for these Michelin star chefs and all of this. And then, you have, again, the smaller business owners that maybe have a store, maybe don't, and are just doing the craft that they really love. and creating something from that. And so it's been interesting because a lot of times I don't feel like I fully fit in. There was actually a nonprofit fundraiser that's a food event, and I think everybody except for like 3 people were from big places here or other restaurants just within the realm of Greenville. And I remember going to one of the meetings and I was like, I do not belong here.
I can already say you earned your spot at the table. But I wouldn't compare your insides to their outsides. They have no idea.
Yeah.
You could hold a conversation with them and they would have no idea.
Yes, I could. But they made me so nervous because I was just, I saw them as, again, I don't have, formal training and all of that kind of stuff. And then what was just funny was I ended up winning.
Look at you. Oh my God.
I wasn't even gonna, I was like, I should
And then
go.
they're asking you tips. So
Right. I was like, I shouldn't even go. And I won with a cookie. And I was like, I'm making a cookie. I was like, this is stupid. And then the cookie, again, I think it's like a matter of, especially with baking, I think it's a matter of intention and love. And people were like, how does this so good? I'm like, magic. And they're like, haha. And I'm like, it's not really, I'm not kidding. But, when you bake like I tell people I'll do like a Q&A of baking questions, on our Instagram every now and then just to help people out. And they're like, how do I get stuff to not be dry or this or that? And I tell them to talk nicely to their baked goods and be in a good mood. And that sounds silly, but if you're in a bad mood when you're baking, unless you're baking to get in a better one, your cakes are not going to come out. You're going to drop stuff. One time my cookies turned into a pizza. My cake completely sunk. I dropped it on the ground. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going to pack this up. I'm going to do it tomorrow when I'm in a better mood. And the bakes all worked the next day.
I love that though, because it's almost it's like that a little bit with plants too. Like no joke, my mom is like a massive gardener, and she says the same thing where she's like, if you're like, unless you're gardening when you're in a bad mood, like you gotta talk nicely to the plants.
Yes.
And there's even scientific studies that back that
there
up.
There are, absolutely. Yeah, they respond. And I mean, I know that they're living and the food isn't necessarily, but it matters. I think the intention behind it. And what I was going to say was that cookie that I made, it's called a kolachki, and it's a traditional Polish cookie. And I learned it from my grandmother, who learned it from her mother, who came over, to Ellis Island and all of that.
Oh, wow.
And the recipe is, again, very anti-vegan. I mean, it's got butter, heavy cream, the yolks, the egg whites.
Give me some of that.
All of that. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to veganize this. And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, I don't know. And then this cookie, I didn't make this cookie for everybody. I made it for the few people who thought this cookie would feel like home. And there were those people who tasted it, and one person tasted it. He is the chef at Southern Pressed, and he said, this tastes like Easter at my aunt's house. And that's why I make dessert. It's not because it's this really impressive thing and it's this beautiful patisserie, and all of that has a place and all of that's delicious and amazing. But I make it so that it can help people feel like home, or can remind them of things, or they can create new memories with it.
The food and the smell, that's what ties me to everything.
100%.
And your olfactory sense is your strongest one, tied to memory and all that. It's crazy. But I wanted to kind of, I guess, tie that into my next question for you, which was, you said that you kind of felt nervous somewhat in some ways around the bigger foodie community in Greenville, but on a bigger scale, just being a local business owner, I always like to ask people I've heard that there is a good small business community in Greenville where they all actually are pretty well interconnected. What is your experience as a small business owner? Do you feel like you have a lot of support within the community?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say, was that within the small food business, because we're all just trying to make it, right? We're all just hustling to get our product out there, and we're at all those markets and all these pop-ups and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I couldn't do it without them. That's why I never turn down anybody who comes and it's like, hey, I'm thinking about opening a bakery, or I want to start this. I'm like, come talk to me, email me, let's set up a time. Because if it wasn't for those people helping me, I wouldn't be here. Whether it was their verbal support or their physical support and help here, or them giving me their numbers, or Julian from Rise Bakery is one of my dear friends, and we are not in competition because we do completely opposite stuff. You will not catch me making bread. It's a patience that I do not have. And so I refer everyone down there. He refers people down here if they're looking for this kind of stuff. And Basta wouldn't be here if it wasn't. There's so many people I can say that about, but he's one of them that Basta wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him or set up in the way it was. And just the welcomingness and desire to support each other has been overwhelming from people, which I hope to then instill back into the community.
I love that. My final question for you, which is the question that I like to end with everybody, is, you know, what is, as a podcast about Greenville in particular, what is your favorite part about, you can say anything from just living in Greenville or just owning a business in Greenville. Like, what would you say, top of your mind, what's like your favorite thing about living or being a business owner here?
That's a good question. Two different things. My favorite thing about being in Greenville is the amount that there is to do. And I have a different perspective than a lot of people do because my dad used to run Greenville events back when it was run by individuals. And so I grew up going to Fall for Greenville, going to the 4th of July Festival, going to, used to be called Friday Night Jazz.
What is it called now? That's what I remember.
Isn't it like Friday Night Alive or something?
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, I know what you're, like Nights Alive, the one that's in front of Roost, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Like he started that. And
Really?
before
No way.
Artisphere happened, it used to be called a River Place Festival and all of this stuff. And so I grew up always doing things. And then now as an adult, there's so much to do. There's so many events. There's so many pop-ups. There's so many people trying different fun things. I love that, especially due to how small Greenville can be sometimes, right? We're not this huge New York City or whatever, but there is so much to do. And if you're like, there's nothing to do here, you just haven't looked around enough, right?
Yeah.
It's a small, big city, which is, if you've not been here, it's hard to describe.
It is. It is. And then I think my favorite part about owning a business is like how supportive everybody has been. And that comes twofold from the business community itself, like I said, but then also from the customers. And again, the core of Basta was to be community centered. And that has really happened. And so it's been beautiful to see people's engagement, people folding when we were opening. Dear goodness, I'm trying to like open this and I didn't have my full team here and I had a lot of new people I was training and, you know, it's just so much. And again, it was me doing it. And I was like, hey, I need people to fold boxes. I have like 6 people will respond to be like, I can be there. Like, you need me to fold some boxes for free. People are just like folding boxes for me, you know, and all of this stuff that has, and, you know, these absinthe prints were donated and all of these things. And people have been so excited to be vendors here. And just to see the community wrap around it and how much they'll put themselves into what they love and want to succeed is a really beautiful thing. I think that's unique to hear, as well as the strong sense of collaboration, whether that's with customers or nonprofits or other businesses, but people are like very willing and happy to collaborate. And I think that, I hope, at least I feel this way, it's viewed much more as a sense of collaboration and everybody has a place than a sense of competition, which is amazing.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with
Yeah,
us today.
of
This is,
course.
like, love hearing the stories of local businesses, and this one in particular just feels so heartfelt and wonderful.
Thank you.
But can you just tell people where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, of course. It's Basta Bakery. It's like pasta, but with a B. And
So you didn't misspell it.
I didn't misspell it. No. A couple of people have thought I said pasta, but Basta Bakery, that's our website, our Instagram, our Facebook, and we update our menus every day that we're open on there and everything, so you can see what we have. We share our gluten-free options, and that's the best way to find us.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Definitely
you so
go
much
ahead and
for your
give her a
time.
follow. And then if y'all are interested in moving close to Basta Bakery so you can be near a bakery every day, please feel free to reach out to us at DelisleProperties.com, or you can email us at Steven@DelilahLink.com or Katherine@DelilahLink.com. So until next time, see you guys.
Thank you.
Yay.